Hello again, everyone. As I was wasting my life on YouTube today, I came across a video by a successful, very professional-looking game YouTuber. He was saying how much of a masterpiece the story of Diablo IV Lord of Hatred was, and how in the hands of less competent writers, it could have turned out so much worse. Now, as it happens, after some persuasion from a friend, I finished Lord of Hatred myself a few days ago, and I thought the story was absolute garbage. So I thought, you know what? No, enough is enough. Let me rush out another poor quality video so that the 36 people that watch it will know how I feel, and maybe I won't be alone in thinking this way. Now, to be fair, the story in the base game of Diablo IV was dreadful too, but at least there the combat had the decency to also be awful. So it combined into a nice awful pie that I absolutely detested the entirety of. Here in Lord of Hatred, they've actually done a lot to make the combat better. It's actually almost fun now. I'm one of those crazy people that spend hundreds of hours in Diablo 1, then hundreds of hours in Diablo 2, and even hundreds of hours in Diablo 3. And I know this isn't reflected in the gameplay video, but believe me, I've put time in. I just suck at the game. But Diablo IV Lord of Hatred? I finished the campaign, forced myself to get to level 70, which is at least much quicker now, and then put the game down and have had zero desire to pick it up again since. But if the combat is now competent, why would that be? Simple. It's because I hate all the characters and the world they've created, and I sorely wish there was an evil ending where I could slowly burn down the entirety of their universe. The story and the characters are by far the worst part of this game, and unfortunately, the designers seem to have the exact opposite opinion. If you like stories written by the free tier of ChatGPT, then you're in for a real treat. And don't worry, the main character's debilitating question mark fetish is still here, and that means that you, the grand savior of mankind, will once again end up fulfilling the petty desires of all the mentally challenged denizens of the many completely forgettable, poorly constructed towns in the world. And yes, when I say denizens, I include dogs, because every game written by millennials is contractually obligated to include puppies. But this time, you'll also be regaled with tales of how hard their lives are, and how they are utterly powerless to do anything to help themselves. Ever. During the main campaign, you'll often be forced to bring along a chatty group of SSRI-addicted millennial idiots who always seem to be a single mean word away from completely collapsing. And they just will not shut up. Everywhere you go, they'll be telling you about how awful and scary the world is and how hopeless it all is. If the characters had any depth to them, I might care, but they just don't. Like many creations from my terrible generation, they're empty stereotypes, caricatures of things that actually were once cool a long time ago. We have the gruff-voiced, allegedly stoic Lorath, who at one point gives up all hope and collapses, weeping, into the mighty arms of the ex-angel Tyrael, who comforts him and tells him it'll all be okay if he just believes. Tyrael himself switches rapidly between being able to magically fend off huge, deadly lava blasts and a complete inability to jump over easily crossable gaps. The Queen of the Amazons, mighty leader of the race of warriors that she is, turns out to be a gullible fool who has clearly been spending more time on Twitter than with real people, and is thus easily tricked by the grade school machinations of the equally vacuous Mephisto into exiling her longtime friend. And as for Lilith, do you remember how in the base game we killed Lilith because she was slaughtering untold numbers of humans, and how she then tried to kill us as the final boss of the game? Well, surprise! She's not dead. She's been living inside us, or something like that. Oh, and she had actually only been killing everyone because she loves humanity so much and wants to save everyone from her evil father Mephisto. Speaking of Mephisto, as the Lord of Hatred, I had hoped he might be somewhat fearsome in appearance. But instead, every time you see him, he comes off as a needy teenage YouTuber, desperate for validation and begging for likes and subscribes. When I played Diablo 1, I was totally caught up in the world. There were cool quests like the Halls of the Blind and Arcane's Valor that just appeared out of nowhere and didn't explain themselves. They didn't need to. Now, however, the story writers seem to have zero confidence that the player will recognize their shining brilliance, and so before, during, and after every quest, the gameplay is repeatedly hijacked by the moronic NPCs babbling about their childishly ridiculous worldviews and desperately trying to trauma dump on the player character. And before they will let you play the game, they will force you to listen to them speak their truths in long, drawn-out, completely unrelatable monologues. Sometimes they'll even break up their dialogue, so that after listening to them speak, you have to click on them again to make them continue. What an ingenious twist on the Milgram experiment, except this time you're both the teacher and the learner, and you're really just shocking yourself. Everything in this dreadful world is an empty reference. There's a quest where you have to, once again, get the Horodric Cube. But why? Oh, to fix the magic MacGuffin knife that Lilith secretly built ages ago to kill her father with, that got broken into pieces and everyone forgot about. Of course. So you'll gather the pieces and travel to the first vault of the original Horodrim with the two manly gossip queens Lorath and Tyrael in tow. Oh, and like almost all Diablo IV bosses, the boss of the first vault isn't some cool legendary character from the lore, but instead some easily forgettable ancient golem nobody ever heard of before, and certainly nobody will ever remember. But hey, remember the Horodrim? Remember Tal Rasha? Do you remember Inarius? Oh, and remember the Butcher? That cool boss from Diablo 1 that scared the living daylights out of everyone opening his door in the dungeon? Remember how it was sorta cool that they brought him back as a proper boss in Diablo 3? Even if he was no longer scary at all and he was just a poorly disguised DPS check? Well, he's just a random spawn in some hard dungeons now. How cool is that? Butcher! And hey, do you remember Tristram? Who doesn't love Tristram, right? All those awesome memories. Well, they brought the theme music back at last. Was it brought back in any meaningful or well thought out way? Nah. But you like Tristram, right? It saddens me to realize that the Diablo I love is dead, and its carcass has been stuffed with a Temu ARPG and is being paraded around by a company that clearly no longer cares about it. And it shocks me that anyone, let alone an adult, could claim that any of these pathetic characters are relatable. But maybe that's the problem after all. Maybe the game series that I love has moved on and is now targeted at soy boys that desperately long to collapse into the beefy, reassuring arms of Daddy Tyrael. But on the other hand, they do kill Nerel immediately, and later on in the game, Lorath runs off stupidly for no reason and his old friend cuts his head off. So final score, 10 out of 10.